Hello and welcome to another edition of Santos on Sports, along with my partner in crime, Mr. Chris Santos. I am Paul Santos. Welcome in. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Scotty's Pub, Citywide Glass, Lakeville Athletic Club, and attorney John B. Seed. Well, as we sit here right now, it's not over yet. The Celtics are still hanging in there, and hopefully they can make it interesting over the last two games. But quite an interesting Game 5.
Well, yeah, it was quite an interesting Game 5, and it was a game that I thought the Celtics would win, Paul. Sometimes teams find a way to step up when someone's out, and I thought the Celtics being home would kind of do that and play better. They got great production out of White, great production out of Cornette, Hauser, Pritchard, got some other guys that got some playing time, stepped up, and won a big Game 5. Now, that being said, can they do this same kind of situation on the road? So this is the big one here for me. Game 6 at a hostile MSG, and find a way to get that same production from those guys to kind of pull this off and then see what they can do if they can make it to Game 7. It will be very interesting. They have to have a fast start, and they got to have good production.
Well, the thing that I noticed in that game was that obviously you have your top player, purportedly your top player, go down. Everybody else wants to get in there and step up.
Yep.
And I think for the most part they did. And I have the question there, can they win without Jason Tatum? Well, that's not even the problem. The problem is, can you win without Jason Tatum and Kristaps Porzingis? Because he's giving you absolutely nothing. Remember when they talked about the big three? It was going to be Porzingis, Brown, and Tatum, and now two of them are out, really, for all intents and purposes. So now you're really asking Brown, right, to carry the load, and I think he can carry it to some extent. I mean, you got a great game, probably one of the best games ever out of Luke Cornette. Derek White was on fire, right? Peyton Pritchard came in and did very well also. But really, Derek White being hot like that, I mean, he was hitting everything. He was on fire, right? And, of course, Cornette had the game of his life. So can that really continue? Like, you really need that 3 games in a row. That's the thing that worries me. I don't know if you can sustain this 3 games in a row.
Well, let me throw this stat at you, Paul, okay? When the Celtics have Jason Tatum in the game, offensively, they average 115 points. When he's not in the game, they've averaged 112. Only 3 points difference. That means the Celtics can score, and they got multiple scorers. But on defense, when Tatum plays, they've only given up 101 points. When he doesn't play, 113. That's a big difference. So defensively, on the road, they're going to have to play better and get that difference. Can they do that? Scoring, I don't think that's a problem. All them guys can shoot threes. All them guys can move the ball around. They can find ways to score with multiple players like Holiday, who can have a great game if he needs to. White doing what he does. Get Cornette, Hauser, Horford, Pritchard. Obviously, we know what Brown can do. So I'm not worried maybe on the offensive part. I can be worried on the defensive part. That's a big difference in a gap. So I don't think you stop Porzingis. I've seen nothing from him since Game 1. I wouldn't give him a minute. I would just roll with the dice and let the other guys go and see what happens. So I hope Mazzulla plays it that way. But I also hope he plays a game plan where get away, and we've talked about this, Paul, isolation ball. The Celtics play better when they move the ball, drive to the basket, always passing, setting screens. This just one-on-one isolation ball has to go. It cannot win you ball games.
Well, I was listening to some pundits talking back and forth, and nobody's going to say that the team is better without Tatum. Of course not, right? No. He's a talented individual. You're better off with him than without him. And that's not even the debate. Mm-hmm. But some of the observers said, and I'd be interested in your opinion because they were kind of X's and O's guys like yourself. Yeah. They were saying that because Tatum wasn't there, the rest of the players, the rest of the team played more team basketball. And if they would just do that when Tatum is there, they'd be better off. What do you think about that?
That's a possibility. And we've talked about this before where, Tatum is the guy that's going to make some of these decisions. That's why he's gotten better when it's team ball and he gets more assists. he gets more rebounds, he gets his points, but he makes everybody around him look better. So when he's not in there, then obviously, there's movement of the ball, and they look to expand, the production of offense. So can they do that again for a sustained amount of time? You can do it for one game like they did in game 5. Can you do it for 6 and 7? That's my concern. And that's what Missoula has to find out, the combination that's working. And if it's White and Brown, if it's Pritchard and Brown, if it's Pritchard and Holiday, he's got to find something that really works. And again, more of that, like, I'm not going to rely on just Brown alone. I'm not going to rely on Tatum alone when he was playing, and have that more team kind of a game. Yes, I can agree with that.
It's unfortunate that they're down 3-1 too, because, when they had Tatum and they had him pretty much through 4 games, I mean, they were already pretty far behind with only a couple of minutes left. So I don't know. It didn't feel like they were going to win that game, even if Tatum stayed in there. But I don't really think he played that great in the first 2 games, and the whole team didn't play that great. And they dug themselves a hole against the team that they really should not have a problem with.
I wouldn't say not have a problem with. I would say they've dominated the Knicks in the past, and, they can play good. But when it's playoff basketball, it becomes a little bit different. You got to get physical. You got to be strong. You got to get to the paint. You got to work that ball inside. You got to slash. And sometimes the Celtics just live and die by the 3. And we saw that in a couple of games. And it kind of hurt them when they were taking 45 shots and they were really cold and not getting as much production and success from the 3-point line. So, there's different game plans. And sometimes when it's not working, you got to do some in-game flexibility, do some changes, and create some more energy and offense to get to the basket. And I think sometimes they didn't do that, and they relied just so much. Don't worry, the 3 will come, and it wasn't showing up. So, hopefully they can do this in game 6. But listen, Towns and Brunson are not bums. These are 2 good players that can play. And when you have 2 guys that can keep you hanging around, here comes Hart, here comes Bridges, here's some other players that step up and say, listen, all I have to do is my role play. I got to play a solid defense. I got to rebound when I need to. And if I contribute offensively with some decent double-digit production, I'm helping out my team. And the Knicks have done that.
All right, let's go to Ryan from Rochester. Good evening.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Yeah,
Hey,
good.
Ryan.
How are you?
Doing pretty good. Nice little jolt from last night. But, at the same time, I look at it and say, like, it still just feels like it's more pathetic, honestly, because it took a 3-1 deficit and your best player going down with an Achilles injury, popping his Achilles, just to really play with some sort of urgency, play with some sort of fire, and, like, as Chris alluded to, play with, like, a different game plan that's not, live and die by the 3. Mm-hmm. If they have a chance to, go back to New York and win this, it's got to be that same sort of game plan. Attack the basket as much as possible. Move the ball. Don't go ISO. I still will find a miracle if they can somehow even get it to 7, let alone win this series. Because at this point, it's still not a ridiculous amount of pressure on the Knicks, because now they just kind of have to take 1 out of the next 2, obviously. And I don't think they're going to be getting as much foul trouble next game, especially at home. And I just don't see them being that cold in the fourth quarter as they were before.
Ryan, do you look at it going away on the road more of a defensive challenge than an offensive challenge for the Celtics? Because I think they can still score with the amount of players that they have, even though Tatum's not there. I still think they can do a lot. But defensively on the road, that's the key. Defensively on the road, can they slow down or give Brunson what he wants and get everybody else slow, or give Towns what he wants and just cover the rest? I think it's more defensively to me than offensively.
I can agree with that, especially with Tatum being, fully out of it now. You're not going to have as much length on the floor. Mm-hmm. And, I give all the props in the world to Luke Cornett for the game that he had last time, but I just don't know if he can, replicate that, even if he gets more minutes. And, you can give Sam Hauser more minutes like you referenced, but he's very much a sort of like 3-point specialist, and so whenever he gets the ball, he's probably going to go to the corners or go to just somewhere behind the arc and just hunk it up. And if he gets cold, then it's definitely over there. So I think between length and just being unsure that Cornette can have the same type of impact that he had last game, I 1000% agree. It's a defensive challenge.
Yeah, and I think it's a third guy because I think Brown's going to give you what he can normally give you. I think White does what he normally does. But who can be that extra man to make that extra attack, that extra, okay, I'm getting double digits, like Holiday, who I'd love to see have a great game, maybe a Pritchard who comes out of nowhere. Cornette gave you what he did yesterday. Can he do that again? I think there's got to be somebody else that can say, hey, we don't have Porzingis. It's just not there. It's just, unfortunately, it is what it is. But who can be that next man up to take over and really help the Celtics on the road? They're going to need that because I don't know if enough from Brown and White can carry it to the win. Well,
that last game, right, I know they didn't really lean on the three as much, but Derek White, he was on fire. He was hitting everything. I mean, everything he threw up there from 3-point land went in. And not only do you need another good game from Cornette like you had the last game, probably the best game of his life, but we do need another similar game like that in terms of rim protecting and things like that. What are the chances of White just coming out and having another hot game like that? I mean, no matter how good you are, you're going to have some games where you're shooting well and some that you're not. It almost feels like the Celtics really have to get hot from White, get another great game out of Cornette, have another great game out of Brown, and do that for 2 more games, which would make 3 in a row. Still feels like that's tough.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Ryan, what do you think our chances are here going into Game 6?
Kind of like what you guys were just referencing about Derek White. I think if he gets hot the way he did, then there's a good chance of it. I just don't see that happening again because, going back to last year too, you saw a game. There were games where Derek White was as hot as he was. Then next thing you know, against say the Pacers, for example, he was stone cold from 3 until the fourth quarter. So if I just don't see on the road him having that sort of game again. But I would say he would have to have another good game, and then as Chris referenced before, I think Peyton Pritchard coming off the bench has to have himself a good game. Because he, not only can he shoot, but we've seen him have to put some nifty moves kind of near the basket and kind of dipping and dodging guys too, getting nice and simple layups. Your guy, Paul. So I think
well, I had that queued up just for the right moment.
Perfect. Yeah. But there's a lot of things that have to click, I feel like. And again, I just don't feel like that Towns is going to get into foul trouble. He got into last game. I don't think Jalen Brunson's going to fall out again.
Right.
I'd say both of them have a pretty good game and they close this thing out.
Ryan, if you're Tom Thibodeau, what do you tell your team right now going into Game 6? Let's reverse it. Let's not talk Celtics. Let's go Knicks. If you're Tom Thibodeau, how do you address your team into this game saying, hey, fellas, it's in our park. It's up to us now to win this ball game. Do you feel the nerves, the tension in Game 6? Haven't been here, the Knicks, as the Celtics have. How do you do it from the coaching point if you're a Knicks fan?
The way I would say it is just listen, we got a chance to close this thing out in our building.
Mm-hmm.
Just play physical, play disciplined, and just play our game. That's how I would go.
How about Cleveland getting swept? I told you they were overrated.
Well, in round 1, Ryan had them going to the NBA championship. So I know it's a little tough, especially with Donovan Mitchell being banged up right now. It's tough for Cleveland to really have a chance. So Indiana's done a good job. They've put some pressure on. Halliburton's been real good. They've had some great role players as well. So I expect them to close this up and get ready for the winner of, obviously, the Celtics and Knicks series.
All right, Ryan. Well, thank you very much for your usual great call, and we'll talk to you again soon.
No problem. Thanks for having me on again, guys.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, Ryan from Rochester. If you'd like to give us a call, now's the time to do it. Our one line is open at 774-218-3393. I think we had a caller that was trying to come in a moment ago, so this is a good time to do so. It's too bad because, you see Cleveland getting knocked off, and I don't know, you got to like the way the Indiana has played, but would have loved to have seen the Celtics play them in the next round if it wasn't for what happened with Tatum and all that,
Well, yeah, obviously, you're going to have to play somebody, and Indiana has shown that, they're not going anywhere right now. They've got themselves a good lead. They like the way they're playing. They've hit some big shots down the stretch, and they're hoping to get to the Eastern Conference Finals and say whether it's New York or Boston and kind of make it that series. So, they're right where they want to be. And for Boston, it's now do or die. It's 2 games. They have to lock in. They got to use, I guess, Paul, their experience, their veteran leadership, and their role to say, hey, we can play better on the road. We've done it before, and let's go do the job again. So, all on the line right here now for Joe Mazzulla and his team.
All right, let's go to Nelson from Fall River. Hello.
It's all up to you.
That's right.
New York. New York.
Oh, the New York man's on the phone.
This is what you tell your Knicks players in that building, MSG.
Mm-hmm.
You tell them very simple. Tonight is Game 7. Tonight's elimination.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Bring that mentality out. Don't look at it as 3-2. It's 3-3. Put that into their brains. I'm pretty sure they're gonna come with that mentality. I agree. I do not see Brunson, Towns. I don't see these guys getting into foul trouble. Theoretically, Celtics were supposed to win that game. They're coming off of the emotion, losing one of their star players. I can expect that, but I will say this: the Knicks better watch out. I'm supporting the Knicks, but they better watch out.
You think they could blow it?
Because Boston, they are, and I've heard this on the TV. I'm gonna just reiterate: the Celtics are wounded dogs right now, backed into the corner. You do not want to play against those type of dogs because they are gonna play in a way where they got nothing to lose.
Desperation.
So it's you do not want to go back to Boston and having to deal with all of them chanting so loud. You got to close it out in MSG. You have to do it. But whoever gets out of this round, if I had to guess as to who could very well win the finals, I'm going with Minnesota.
Ooh.
I like how they are right now. They have it all. They got the closer. They got everything. Defense, offense. They got every single aspect of a championship caliber team. So there might be another pack of dogs coming around if Celtics get out of this.
Yeah, I think you're right there in one case, Nelson, because I think this is a desperate team, Boston. And nothing against the Knicks, but, experience counts. And the Knicks have not been in this situation where Boston has. And so veteran leadership, the Knicks have to come and put the presence early and say, this is our home. We're going to dominate you. We're going to be physical with you. We're going to be able to go to the basket. You're going to go in there. We're going to make you feel it. And this is our home court. I can agree that it is desperation time for the Boston Celtics, but this is also the time for New York to say, now it's our turn. We're on a different level. It's time to get it done at home. So you could be right on one end that you got to be weary because it's a desperate team fighting out of a corner as the Celtics are. But, you're home. It's desperation time. It's Game 7 in your eyes. I agree with that. And obviously, you're trying to move on and represent the East Conference. On the opposite side, yeah, Minnesota has done a nice job. But Golden State, hasn't been what we thought they would be. Oklahoma City worries me right now. they're strong. They got some guys that can put some points on the board too. If Oklahoma and Minnesota match up, boy, I think that's going to be a great series too, Paul and Nelson. I'd be looking forward to watching this one. A bunch of young kids who are hungry and just really able to play some nice basketball.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What the hell does Porzingis? What does he have? What is he suffering from? I haven't heard anything as far as exactly what he's suffering from.
Seems like it's always something with him,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
they're just calling this a health issue. That's all they're calling it. They don't want to bring out anything where the media takes off with it, other teams take off with it. They're just calling it where he's having a tough time breathing. So there's got to be some inside pneumonia. I'm not sure what it is. He's only averaging like 10 minutes. If I'm Boston, I don't even start him. I don't even play him. I keep him on the bench. He's a liability both on offense and defense, and nothing against him. If it's a health condition, then just sit there and write it out with other guys and just let it go.
It's really too bad because you take Tatum out of there, right? Which is unfortunate, the whole Achilles thing. If you got a healthy Porzingis, the Celtics have still got a really good team there.
Yeah, no, without a doubt.
No question.
Healthy, it changes things dramatically. But with him not being 100%, it lowers the statistics. But again, nothing is over until it's over. And I go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I think you're absolutely correct in what you're saying, Nelson, because it is never over till it's over. But you have an opportunity right now for your city of New York, for your NBA to say, hey, listen, New York is a force in this league. If they can win this one here, it goes back to the days of Pat Ewing and Reggie Miller and saying, hey, Indy versus Knicks, let's get back to that great excitement that they used to have. They need that now.
Hey, it's been a long time. That is for sure. But that Jalen Brunson, what a great player. I mean, I'm rooting for the Celtics and everything. I love watching that guy. I mean, he's Mr. Clutch. He is just terrific.
Yeah, he's Captain Clutch. Absolutely. The Knicks have a lot to be proud of, but Mr. Towns, that player, he scares me. To me, he's kind of clumsy in a way. It's like it's easy. You can steal the ball from him very easily. I mean, these fouls that he's initiating, are dumb fouls. I just, when he gets the ball, I hold my breath and hopes that he doesn't mess up. When he scores, great. But on defense, it's just, I don't know. I'm a little wary, but nonetheless, he's a pro, so there's nothing I can say. But altogether, the Knicks, they have a lot to be proud of, given all of these years not making it far. And if they could build around, and possibly, I don't know this is going to happen, Giannis is possibly thinking about shopping around and getting out of Milwaukee. I don't know what's going to happen, but if that happens, I hope the Knicks come on down to Manhattan. It's the pizza capital of the world. He will be treated very well. You got the Yankees over there, championship caliber. We all know what it is. If Giannis, if he can just consider the Knicks, given how far they're coming right now, watch out if he comes to Madison Square Garden.
It's not been brought up as a team that so far in the media that Giannis would think about, but I agree with you. If they make a little run here, he sits back in his mind and says, Brunson, Towns, and me, I have an opportunity to put them over the top, maybe win an NBA championship. Absolutely. Because that's when you got to start thinking now, hey, big city market like New York and some of them other teams that have said he may go to, aka LA, unfortunately, and maybe some other ones. But New York has not been mentioned at the moment. But let's let the playoffs finish. But that's not a bad suggestion, Nelson. Look out.
Yeah, yes. Listen, you got the bright lights, big cities with the pretty ladies. It's everything. New York has everything for Giannis.
All right, Nelson. Well, when we talk to you again, either the Knicks will have blown it, or the Knicks will be in the conference finals, one or the other.
Yeah, one or the other. But let's hope they advance. They have
Good luck
to
to you.
treat it as a game 7.
All right. Have a good night. Thank you for calling.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, Al.
Okay, let's see. Let's go to Ben in Dartmouth. Are you there? Hello, Ben. Okay. See, I'm doing something wrong here.
I'm here.
Oh, Ben is there.
Hey,
Hello,
Ben.
Ben from Dartmouth. Good evening.
Good evening, Paul. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So yeah, I didn't watch the game last night, but I would like to reflect on a little bit of the series so far. I think it's been a really challenging series for the Celtics, if you ask me. The thing I would say with losing Tatum, it was pretty challenging from the start. Like from last night, I think it was tough to regroup from that. But if they play like this in Game 6, they could possibly win the whole series. Like how they played last night in Game 6, they could possibly win the series. But as of right now, the first 2 games, you were like, what the hell is this team doing? They were blowing 20-point leads away, and they're blowing it faster than the money that's leaving the stock market. I'm just saying.
Well, it's interesting, Chris, because I want to ask you that, because I did hear some pundits say, a lot of times when somebody goes down, right, these other guys look around the room. I mean, after getting over the shock, like when you actually saw Al Horford and the interviews with some of these players, they were just so devastated, and there was such silence, in the locker room and stuff like that. But then once they had a chance to regroup, I mean, Pritchard's looking at Brown, Brown's looking at Cornett's looking at White's looking at Holiday. It's like, hey, we're not bums in this room here. Here's a chance for us to step up and show them, hey, this isn't a one-man team here. We have something to prove here. Let's go out there and win the game, right? Is there something to that?
For a game, yes. For a series, that's a little bit different, because what happens is now the Knicks start to figure out, okay, what are they doing? Oh, well, they decided to put Cornett. Oh, they decided to put Pritchard. Oh, they decided to put Hauser. Now they start making, so now we got to make the next change. But they know that Tatum's not coming back. So now we got a game plan with what the lineup we saw in this one. So yes, they can give you the one game, the inspiration, the emotion, being home, all that happens all the time in sports. I've seen it a million times. Now, can you do it for a series? That's the question.
So that kind of thing that I'm talking about,
Yes,
that I just
happens
described,
quite frequently.
it can
Yes.
last temporarily, but it burns off.
Correct.
It's hard to
happens
sustain it.
frequently for a game, but it doesn't happen for a long stretch. Can they make it happen? Let's find out.
All right. So John Duart says you have to remember, is there going to be enough ball to go around? Mr. G loves the ball. He brings it up, loves to shoot. New York might not be the right fit. He's talking about Giannis.
Yes. Yeah, he is talking about Giannis. So, well,
Nelson would love that to happen.
Yeah, no, he would. Look, Brunson, Towns, if they got Giannis, you will have to sit back and obviously think about the big 3. That would be a big 3 to me, and figure out how to do it, because obviously it would be a bonus. But John saying that Giannis likes the ball, okay, maybe he does, and he would probably be one of the leaders, if not the best player on that team. But can they make it work? That's why they play the game, and I'm sure New York would love to have him.
Ben, what do you anticipate in Game 6? Do you think that the Celtics can go down to Madison Square Garden and duplicate what they did the other night? Or, like Chris says, is that sort of like a one-night kind of a thing that it's going to be very, very tough to repeat that, especially down on the court of Madison Square Garden?
I agree with Chris here. I think it's going to be really tough to go into the Mecca and really pull out like a blowout game like that. I know they did it in Game 3 and whatnot, but like you're going to Madison Square Garden, the King Stadium, King Arena of all sports, and it's like the show. Like a lot of people have played in that arena, and it's got a lot of history. So, New York is going to really show out for their team. I know I've seen a lot of videos of New Yorkers trolling some Boston fans on the streets. Yeah, they take their team for granted. They haven't won a championship since 1973, but they've been through a lot of heartache and pain. And they really want a championship really bad in that city. Stephen A. Smith has been crying for years to get a goddamn championship in New York. So it's been a while it's been a while for them. So it's great that they're going back into the hang of things and going back into the playoffs and whatnot with a great team, a great coach. Tom Thibodeau is a very good coach. I thought he was a phenomenal coach when he was in Chicago, and yeah.
Hey, but that Stephen A. Smith, that's Chris's favorite commentator.
Yeah.
It is mine too, so it's mine too.
No, Chris dislikes him.
No, that's not true on this one, Ben. Unfortunately,
You agree with him on that one.
I'm not a big fan of Stephen A. Smith. So,
Right.
Everybody
I
has
also
their
want to add
pros,
on to
everyone has
that,
their cons. But yeah, I am not a fan of his at all. So,
No relation, Ben, right? No relation?
No relation.
Okay, I just...
It's like a fourth cousin.
All right. Well, let's hope that they can somehow pull it out, because how much fun would it be to have Game 7 at the Garden, our Garden, not their Garden, and wonder whether or not the Celtics, without Tatum, can somehow pull it out, and at the same time, the Knicks start to feel that pressure, like, oh my God, we're going to blow this. Oh my God, we're going to blow this. By what theater that would be if they could just get it into Game 7.
If they get it into Game 7, I feel like the series could be over for the Knicks. I feel
Really?
like the Knicks are a good Game 6 team, and the Celtics are a great Game 7 team. So they have similarities. So I think next series is going to be the toughest, though. I feel like Indiana's coming in with a powerhouse.
Yeah.
They just knocked out the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference the other night. So it's going to be a little bit tough for them down the stretch. But I would like to add on to Giannis, too. Giannis, that was a kind of a contender that I really wanted on the Celtics. But I don't know if it might happen, because if you know how much we would probably give away, we'd probably give away Jaylen Brown in that trade. So I wouldn't risk trading away Jaylen Brown, but if you want to build a team, build it around Tatum and Derek White. Derek White is the future of the Celtics franchise and point guards and whatnot. So you want to build around him more as well.
All right. Well, Ben, thank you very much for the call, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, see you.
All right, Ben from Dartmouth, and I think John Duart, thank you very much for the shout out. Love right back to you. But he's talking about the Celtics winning their championship without their big man last year. He thinks they can do it, pulling the troops together and all that we talked about before. But again, sustaining it, like you said, I think that's the challenge, trying to sustain that little burst with these other players.
Yeah, and there's 2 keys that I'm going to look for, Paul. One is going to be the number of threes taken and the percentage of making them. And then 2, the big one to me, in Madison Square Garden, hostile crowd, turnovers. That, to me, is going to be a key factor. Boston cannot turn over and give up easy buckets for the Knicks, which gets the crowd pumped up, which gets them easy 2 points, and then puts you, obviously, on the defense, which is what you do not want. So that's going to be the 2 keys I'm going to be looking for in that Game 6.
Well, luckily in that last game, they only had 8 turnovers, which was good. Yep. And the game I went to in Orlando, that's the only game that the Celtics lost in that series, of course. But that game, my wife and I were watching that game, they were coughing up the ball left and right and left and right. It was like a turnover machine. They just couldn't hang on to the ball. And like you said, sometimes Jaylen Brown can be Mr. Stone Fingers. They were coughing up the ball all over the place. So that's absolutely important. Number 2, if they fall behind early, if New York gets on like an early 11-0 run or something like that, that's going to be tough. I mean, they got to try to keep it, at least within a few, possessions, I think, early on without falling behind.
I've seen White have a game. I've seen Brown have a game, and can make that kind of comeback, even if it gets you just can't let them get, away. And then again, try to create something that's not there, and then you create the turnovers, and that's what really kills you. So, it's easy to say when you're home, but when you're on the road and when you have the fans and the momentum, it's really tough to cut through when you're creating a lot of turnovers. So they got to make sure they do not do that.
Do you agree with a lot of analysts that say that the Celtics just too much of the three? A lot of times we're texting back and forth, and Tatum would take the ball right to the basket, and he's really good going to the basket, right? And he loves to take that step back and all that. We've talked about that before. But like taking the ball to the basket, especially when you have the lead, right? If you just take the ball to the basket, draw the foul, break the momentum, don't let them go on one of those 10, 12-0 runs to get back into the game. How important is that, do you think?
I think it's very important. And the reason being why I say it's important is how you do it. If you move the ball around and have open looks and take the shot, I like that better than dribble down, one pass, take a shot with a guy right on you, or dilly-dally, wait till like 5 seconds, take a step back off balance and shoot it. I don't like that either. So how you create that three, how it comes about is a lot easier for me to judge the analytics, to say, I'm taking threes, but I'm taking good shots, Paul. I'm not taking bad threes. And I think sometimes, you get involved so much in the offense that, we're rallying around the three that you take them from everywhere. I don't think you need to do that. Take it as you create it with good ball movement, and then get the open look and take it better than just that dribble down, one pass, quick shot, or the step back and off balance three. So if they do it the right way, sure, why not?
How important is Missoula at this point? Because, when Tatum was in there, it just seemed like, you just kind of let the thing go, let your best player kind of bring the ball up the court, which again, we've been talking about that and I've been critical of that a little bit. But, that game when Tatum brought the ball up, it was like 15 seconds left. You dribble the ball up and then dribble into the corner, got triple teamed, and they didn't even get a shot off, right? So your response was, what the heck where was the coach in that? That was all coaching. Like, where the hell was the play? Yep. Like, how come you didn't call timeout? What are you doing? So now you don't have Tatum. So Missoula is going to be required to come up with a little bit more now, isn't he, in terms of drawing up plays and coming up with strategy and coming up with a game plan?
I don't think more. I think just, do what you need to do, which is in-game changes, substitutions, use your bench, who's going to try to stop who, know your coverages, and then obviously create plays, whether it's finding easy threes, finding getting to the basket, and, and kind of get guys in, guys out to know who's got the hot hand and who's moving it right. So, of course, coaching's really important from the start of the game to the end. And you got to know when to use the timeouts. You got to know when you have a TV timeout. You got to know, down the stretch, whether it's at the half, end of the third, at the end of the game, big situations, big time, clutch presence. And so, of course, I don't think that's going to change at all. I hope Cassell helps them out. They all talk about it and they get the job done. So, I think it's really important.
All right. If you'd like to get in the last 10 minutes or so, give us a call here, 774-218-3393. I wanted to ask Chris about the Red Sox because I flipped over to the Red Sox the last couple of nights when I was, watching the hockey and the basketball, and I saw them blow 2 games in a row that they should have never lost. And the one that was the heartbreaking one was when they finally got up 2 in extra innings. They put that player at second base, and a lot of time that one run isn't enough. So they got a 2-run lead, and I thought, all right, this is going to be all set. This is going to be all set. All of a sudden, a walk or whatever it was, bing, a home run, 3-run home, and good night. I was like, oh, that was brutal. Again, I think Chapman has done a good job in relief, but I think that middle relief, it always comes down, it seems to me, with the teams that are not quite there, that 7th, 8th inning, 6th, 7th, 8th inning. And of course, when you get in extra innings, now you go into the secondary level in the bullpen. So I don't know, the bullpen's been really shaky.
There's been some guys there that have not stepped up, I believe, as someone who knows the Red Sox players a little bit more, because obviously they're local. But I think they've had high expectations on a Tanner Houck, and he hasn't done the job. A Garrett Whitlock hasn't done the job. Bernardino, a couple of these other guys that the Sox are saying, hey, we've put a lot of time and effort and money into these guys, and it's their time now to shine. And some of them have not stepped up on the pitching staff, and it's shown. And right now, good teams I can't say Detroit's been a good team, but this year they're having a good season, and so they taken care of business of what they needed to do. But yeah, those three guys come to my mind to sit back and say, we need better starts, we need better middle relief, and then obviously at the end of the game to try to close, as you said, a 2-run lead. But again, you got a runner on second. All you need is one hit or one walk ball or one error, and the next thing you know, it's one swing away from winning the game. And that's what ended up happening to them.
Now, Pete Rose is in the news again because now they've put him back in to the game, not to get into the Hall of Fame, but he would be eligible to be voted into the Hall of Fame. Yes. I imagine if it came to that. I know we've talked a number of times. I'm trying to remember what your position is on Pete Rose getting into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and the other one was, Shoeless Joe.
Right, Shoeless Joe Jackson, yeah.
That was the other one. So
I don't think I've ever asked you this before.
Well, again, Hall of Fame to me is on player stats and what they've done in the game. So, yeah, I mean, I'm for it because of how good Pete Rose was and even Joe Jackson. Now, you talk about betting on a game. Pete was known to bet on his team to win the game, not to bet on other teams or anything like that, or to try to lose the game and bet against his team. That's a tough decision that, rules are rules and you follow it. Sometimes, those rules change, and this is what MLB is thinking about right now. But I'm going more by what the Pete Rose, the player to me, and what he was. And I remember watching him growing up and how great he was, Charlie Hustle, and what he meant to the Reds in Major League Baseball. Obviously, I know nothing about Shoeless Joe Jackson. That's way back in the when the White Sox called the Black Sox, how that turned into. But that was saying that Shoeless Joe tanked plays or tanked an at-bat to obviously lose the series. A little bit different than what Pete was as a coach and not a player. So it's kind of different, but they made that scenario way back then. So, I'm more of a stat kind of a guy. I don't have much to say on the Shoeless one, but for Pete, for me, yeah, it's taken a long time. Unfortunately, too bad he's not around to really know, what that's about now. But for me, it's about what he was as a player.
I thought it was a little frustrating too that, he denied it for so long. And then remember that famous Jim Gray interview? Jim Gray just said to me, look, people are forgiving if you just admit that you screwed up or you had a gambling. Oh, how dare you ask me that? I'm not guilty. Yeah. I got framed. I got screwed. I got that. This one's lying. That one's lying. That one's lying. And then after he goes, oh, okay, I did it. It's like, Jesus, they gave you a number of chances to do the mea culpa. That I found that to be quite upsetting that he just didn't admit it.
I mean, no, listen. So the next debate's going to be, okay, well, if they did it for these two guys, okay, so what happens now with Bonds, McGuire?
Steroid guys, right.
Now this is going to come up as well. It's just a matter of time before that scenario now filters in, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and the kind of same thing. So it's a hard one to say, I'm not really going to debate it and go against it or go with it. I just think, I'm a stat kind of guy when it came to that. So performance enhancement is a little bit different than the betting part, kind of a deal, because the performance enhancement can contradict the stats. Because if he doesn't have that, would the stats be the same? Mm-hmm. Really, really tough to get involved in that. That's just a whole other episode, Paul, of Santos on Sports. So
right.
Let's just leave it at that, and we'll go with this one. But I'm a Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle kind of guy, stat wise.
All right, we only got a few minutes left, but I'm interested in your take on this. All this Bill Belichick stuff, right? I just find it, I got to tell you, I almost kind of disgusting. I just don't understand a 73-year-old person with this young girl he started seeing her when she was 19. I mean, this isn't like 50 to 30 or 60 to 40. Look, it's none of my business. Nobody's breaking the law or anything, but I don't know. I just feel like, I can understand why Belichick's family is concerned because it seems like he's being taken advantage of.
I don't care what happens on the personal side, Paul, but when it comes into the football, into the colleges, into the NFL or whatever it is, now I have a little bit of problem with that. Personally, I can't tell a guy in his 70s not to see someone like, it is what it is. And it happens, and we've seen it more than just not with him and some of the others. But when it interferes with the social part and it gets on the media and it gets involved with football, which is what his job is, yeah, I kind of take it as, what the heck is this all about? And why is that happening? So I look at it from the football point of view, yes.
All right. By the way, next week or the next time we do a show, I just found out that the Patriots schedule came out, and I understand it's considered to be one of the weaker schedules in the league.
It's in the bottom 5.
Right, and I think the over/under is something like, was it 8 or 9 or something like that? I heard.
I believe it's at 8.5 right now. Yes.
All right, so you can bet 9.
Let's not get carried away. That's not my plan right now, but their schedule is a little bit easier. Yes. How that works with the division and then the 500 teams from last year and all that. I get all that. So, it favors them a little bit more, but am I jumping on that? I'm staying away right now.
Well, after what happened last time, you shied away a little bit there?
No, I got to at least see what the team looks like first,
right?
With under Vrabel, under McDaniels, under now that they got Diggs and they got some running backs and receivers. I want to see what they kind of get a feel for them a little bit before I sit back and say, yeah, this is something I'm going to do.
So we're going to do like we did the past few years, maybe not quite yet because we got to get a little bit closer to the beginning of the regular season. Their first game is against the Raiders in September. I understand. So that's quite a while away yet. But when it gets closer, we'll do the old win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, the whole thing. And then we'll do that with Nelson from Fall River and Ryan from Rochester and Ben from Dartmouth, get everybody in and see, remember last year when my good friend Scott predicted 10 wins on a playoff appearance?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about being positive. I got to give him credit for being positive. But, hey, you never know. You never know what can happen. The difference between 4 wins and 7 wins is like, probably 3 or 4 plays. You know what I mean? That went the other way or whatever. So,
well, listen, Paul, they haven't stepped on the field, and it's all paper. But you would have to think that right now they look better.
Oh, yes.
Than last year.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to leave it at that, and then we'll go from there.
What about the first round pick? The left tackle. We'll have to see how. What they say, T-Rex there.
Right. So now you look at what he can do and how that impacts the rest of the offensive line. Getting Bradbury at center, getting Strange involved on the other side. So now things start to filter in a little bit better and a little more clearer up front for New England. And let's see how that pans out. But I think on paper they're a lot better from free agency and the draft than they were last year.
It'd be interesting to see, obviously the second year now of Drake May, and now you throw in Stephon Diggs and some of the other players that they've added. They've added some pieces that they didn't have before. Some of the defensive players are coming back. They're injured. Hopefully they can just be in a situation where those last couple of games are important, meaningful games where you can make the playoffs. You know what I mean? That would be fun.
Or win enough games to get the over and the over and under.
Exactly.
That they didn't do last year.
All right. Well, I don't know. I just hope the Celtics can win another game to keep the interesting going, because if the Celtics get knocked out, it'd be like, wait a minute, the Bruins didn't even make the playoffs, and now the Celtics are supposed to have a good chance to repeat and all this, and now they're gone too. Now what am I going to do? I got to watch we got to watch the Washington Capitals because of my good friend Mr. Allen, who's on the bench there. And then just kind of, bank on the Red Sox, I guess. But let's thank attorney John B. Seed, Lakeville Athletic Club, Citywide Glass, and Scotty's Pub for supporting Santos on Sports Tonight. Now, a lot of fun there, and let's see what happens. You never know. That's why they play the games.
It is, and thanks to our callers, Nelson, Ryan, Ben, appreciate you guys getting there as well. John Duat, thank you. David Mead, thank you too for your comments in the comment section. So, appreciate all that. And Paul, They'll play the game, and I'm sure you'll be texting me, and I'll be texting you during Game 6, and let's have some fun.
Yeah, I know when Chris is upset because when he types in all capitals, like if somebody finally like takes it to the basket, he's like, take it to the basket.
That means I'm raising my voice when you say
that means he's pissed. Take it to the basket. Or I can't say anything about Tatum right now because he's injured, so I can't say anything about Tatum. But if I say something about Tatum, he always goes hater in capital letters.
Listen, it's time for your boy Brown, who
I know,
Mr. MVP last year, to take over a game. Let's see if he can do it in Game 6.
I think he referred to him as stone fingers one day when he.
I have, and listen, and a lot of commentators have said he needs to handle the ball a lot better than what he's doing.
Right.
Yes.
Well, let's see what happens. All right. So thank you very much for the callers, as Chris said, and those on the comment line. For Chris Santos, I'm Paul Santos for Santos on Sports. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Go Celtics.